are literally shaping the planet.
Purpose is the only pathway to a regenerative future.
We have a choice to stay with the status quo or to change.
What is the point of trying to be just resilient when we can actually innovate?
Hi to everyone from London. It might not look like it, but here we are, all in our very personal spaces. So welcome to mine. I will take this this brief introduction time to put the decks on the screen. The title of the discussion, exploration, conversation, call it what you want, today is the third platform, or certainly the hypothesis of a third platform, and what that might drive in terms of venture capital, innovation, and how we might want to scale our business. So without further ado, I just will develop the hypothesis and explain why I think it is important and why I think we are just at the beginning of digitalization, and why these kind of summit where we have only a few people are soon going to be the most important type of summits. So we've lived in the era of BIM, and I think we've made too much of it. I think all BIM was fundamentally is a semantic representation of the built world information. So yes, there was more to it. We tried to do more with it, but fundamentally, it's a digital medium. And that invites a digital transformation, which for us means innovation, rethinking the value chain, and transformation of the industry. So I want to state it. First and foremost, stop talking about BIM. You are underplaying your cards. We are living in a world where, as a generation, those younger than me, you're gonna put to work those 12 Gutenberg moments, 12 Renaissance in one generation. And we should not forget the scale of our ambition and what that means. So why am I talking about platforms? Well, because 30 plus years ago now, we saw a first information platform emerge, and that was the internet. And it had very humble beginning. This is the paper, the grant application from Tim Berners-Lee at CERN. And the note on that paper from his supervisor was, this is vague, but sounds exciting. And we know what happens thereon. 1989, semantic linking of information over IP network sounds quietly esoteric. And then we know what that leads in terms of transformation. The second platform are the people. Up to that point, we had been linking machines through IP addresses and knowledge through HTML, but here we are linking people. And this is my comment on the patent from Mark Zuckerberg that underpins the Facebook approach and the second platform emergence is this social, trending, exciting, and addictive, and enough said with the TikTok affair that is unfolding right now. So what might the third platform be? And this is not a new concept. The idea that the digital mirror, the mirror world is emerging, and that this mirror world that was postulated a few years back is a fundamental platform and transformative platform as much as the previous two, is the hypothesis that I try to develop and bring as consequences. So how do we know it might be happening? Well, we see things like digital twinning as a concept emerge from NASA, first papers 2006, about the convergence of a digital twin and the physical thing and its interaction. We see a convergence of gaming technologies that enabled to gradually unshackle ourselves from the cognitive limitations that we had to put on the games. If we remember, in the 1980s and the 1990s, we really had oversimplified cognitive inputs, and now we are starting to have full resolution, full extent, unlimited scope virtual worlds emerging. And those gaming virtual world, actually we can suddenly say, well, why don't we, instead of inventing a city, put a real city in it? Instead of putting the gravity or some fake physical constants on collisions of objects, we put the real physical constants, and we're creating a digital mirror of the real world using those gaming technologies. And finally, we're seeing this emergence of linking. We see the big tech, be it IBM with Red Hat, be it Amazon, be it Oracle, they're all coming to our world, and then you seeing them being appropriated by construction 4.0 type thinking or implementation of general platforms like Autodesk Forge. So let's just step back and say, all right, there is a platform coming. What do we need to know? And there, just get back to the fundamental semantic book, seminal book from Alain Waha from University of Surrey, that says ultimately platforms are not all equal. They're all very different, and the way to play in these different platforms is slightly different. That's the book. I invite everybody to try and understand what it says. They identify a number of different types of platform, industry platforms, supply chain platform, internal platforms that emerge, start collaborating. They've got different interfaces, different attributes, and competing in the world of digital platform is an art in itself, but it's also an opportunity. And what I think I want to bring up during this summit is that in this world of platforms and digital platform, we see transaction platforms, winner takes all platform, two-sided platforms that obviously make many venture capitalists salivate. Can I create the third platform? Can I create the Facebook of the built world? And I think equally important is the ecosystem of innovation that these platforms create, and create, in fact, a more reliable and more substantial opportunity for venture capitalists to invest with that platform mindset, the fact that they're going to join an ecosystem. So that is the hypothesis of Annabelle, is that at the intersection of innovation platform and transaction platform, you might have these hybrid companies that become winner takes all a player, but doesn't mean success just for them. And maybe one of the questions, anticipating what is coming, is what kind of platform companies do we want in our society? Because ultimately, if we then jump back into making this work and this thinking applicable to our industry, we need to ask, what is it all about? And I think it is not too grandiose to ask that question, because what we do know about platform is that when they scale because they tap into a purpose. And so we know that the purpose of our industry ain't that difficult. Build buildings better. So can we create the intervention we make on the built world in a more effective and efficient way? Summarized by Martin Fisher of Stanford as every worker builds the right product safely, productively, sustainably. I think that's a worthwhile pursuit, but I think in the world of saving the world, which is a theme of our conference and our summit, build better buildings is, I think, even more important, because ultimately it is about creating the buildings that we need in a sustainable way that is important, and the outcome we're expecting It's not about pouring concrete. It's not about pouring concrete better. It is about thinking, how does this office, how does this hotel perform better? And finally, we know that there is a societal impact. We are only shaping the built world around ourselves because it supports our needs for security, safety, and then the self-actualization needs and the social needs that we have as social animals, summarized in we shape our buildings, and afterwards our buildings shape us. So very important to think, okay, these platforms, can we tap them into these three purpose and these higher indicators? So let's just have a quick look at what they look like and where we might see things happening already. So we know that there is a horizontal integration going on. And again, these are my terms, different people, different terms, but we know that in the life cycle of an asset, we operate it, then we plan an intervention, we design that intervention, we then fabricate, construct, assemble, and then put it back into operation. In that context, horizontal interface integration is something that we do very poorly currently in our industry. And we know already, for example, WeWork showed that by closing the loop on what happens in their offices and planning new interventions onto those offices or onto new offices that were able to open, they were able to get to better buildings. And it's really interesting to see that, yes, the building, the current business model of the industry, which is I get an architect, they design me an office, and then I build that, and then I operate the office and never chase back for, was it a good office or not at scale anyway. That structure will not encourage the behavior of looking at, have we built a good product? Is it performing? And yet we can see that if we do, the gains are significant. Again, these are proprietary to WeWork, but double percents, because the gains were in double digits in terms of percents. At different scale, infrastructure with the train operators in the UK, for example, through systems thinking and a lot of research going on at Imperial College, we find the same thing. Can we link back the desired intervention to what we've done and whether we are delivering? And so that systems thinking at larger scale for a railway network is also possible. Then we have the vertical integration. We know that in execution, in fact, every time, in every phase, we have different parties going on. And we know, for example, that these multiple actors can vertically integrate. So supply chain integration, be it in the fabrication stage, the design stage, the planning stages. I just give an example here of construction stage. And it's interesting that we are seeing that integration might be possible through standardization of interfaces that would be made possible through the emergence of platform construction systems. Such a platform construction system is under conception and is at conception stage in the UK, again, through the Construction Innovation Hub. So platformization of the construction phase is very much the focus of a lot of capital right now. And then if you set up that if you set up that ecosystem, you start having non-direct integration. Here is an example actually of today of contractors setting up integration platforms that allow them to exchange and resell to each other surplus material and avoid material waste. And so it's very, very exciting to see these things starting to come more and more. And then, of course, you would say, but what of the multiple vertical and horizontal integration? And yes, in fact, integrated project delivery, as proposed by Stanford, is just doing that. And the methodologies around integrating the information and integrating the organization, then integrating the processes, integrating the systems to lead to high performance buildings. Very much something that is front and center of what we are seeing happening today. It's just accelerating. And then as soon as you put some mathematics behind that, you can start doing end-to-end linear optimizations, and the success are quite spectacular, because essentially you're competing a computer with a brain, and the computer unlocked the complexity that until that point had been locked in. And then of course you can start doing longitudinal integration, where you integrate across projects, across scales, into operation at the systems of systems. The dimension of integrations don't stop just at this horizontal, vertical, and longitudinal. And again, it's not just random theory. Here we have two examples of national digital twin that is trying to make these multi-scalar longitudinal integrations. We've got the UK National Digital Twin Program, and this approach, the infrastructure level, because this is a policy-driven approach driven by a country. We've got the Digital Twin MVP in Australia and New South Wales. We have a similar one at the Punggol Digital District in Singapore. The same thing is happening time and time again. So are we really going to get these platforms? Will they just emerge, or do we need a Tim Berners-Lee moment? That's a very good question. How do we make all these platforms emerge? Is it just an interoperability problem? Is that the hypothesis? Is it an interoperability and a policy problem? Certainly, people are looking into that. They understand better what are the information structures. This interoperability is there to support an information map. We now have better view of this information map, and we are reassured to see that actually it starts explaining why our industry has remained locked systemically, because ultimately these interactions and these integration were not possible in the earlier technology stack, where the cost of integrations were very, very expensive, or required a corporate integration, or required a static integration. We can integrate the supply chain for automotive for the simple reason that you build the plant for 30 to 40 years. So you integrate with 100 supplier for 30 years seems reasonable. Integrating for 1,000 suppliers for 6 months seems a taller order. So these information maps are guiding us into finding what kind of theories. Again, you expect the same player to come. So Singapore, they are integrated digital delivery platforms, and this is an ecosystem that they're trying to put in place for Singapore. The EU is trying to do the same with their initiative called DigiPlace, and they have developed a number of use cases that they will want to drive policies and investment to make those digital platforms emerge in support of creating a more transparent economic market for construction in the in the EU, which remains in fact a collection of very small markets. And here we did some work in the UK, bringing a group of thinkers around what would the technology stack look like to enable information transfer. This is now a completed, published, open sourced API architecture that allows you to create one of these ecosystems on your construction project. So that's the hypothesis, and trying to talk about these platforms. It may be emergent. It may be a valid hypothesis, but so what? And I think we need to go back at looking at those different this platform. Where would, as an innovator, as an investor, as a venture capitalist, as a startup CEO, where should I go and play if indeed I'm coming into this world where I don't develop point solution, but I'm part of an ecosystem? And of course, you might dream that you will be a winner takes all platform. or you could say, I just want to participate, and if it happens, it happens, but if not, I still have returns. And I think, again, this is part of some of the work we've been trying to think through around what are the domains where we are seeing platform emerge, and what are the key opportunities. And again, that is not anything more than a little bit of socializing the idea and getting feedback. So the first one, of course, is around design, and to understand that today we have the opportunity to do what music did earlier, is to re-intermediate the conversation between the artist and the audience. The audience, that's the user of space. The artist is the person that is proposing a product, somebody that's proposing an intervention. We call them architects. And today, that relationship is intermediated through the A&R industry. Sorry, that was in music. The A&R decided who was a great artist and what the audience wanted. But now it isn't like this anymore. The artist talks straight to their audience. The audience chooses which stream on Spotify they pick. So I think that is a very, very interesting topic, because it closes the loop on the intervention, and it allows the architect to harness value and develop outcomes rather than develop drawings. Underpinning that, you will see that for the architect, for the artist, form will not follow function, but will follow data, because they will be connected to that platform, which will be data rich. The second thing, and I was hinting at it just a minute ago, is that a platform ecosystem creates new business models, and we understand the different types. There are some that are reasonably static, with static supply chain. This is the traditional one with a supplier park, but we are saying that you can vertically integrate it, and this would be more the Catera model, or you'd go towards an open market with interfaces specified, and a much more fluid markets. Tokenized finance is emerging, and the like. So I think that is a very interesting unlocker for this for a new structure for the industry. The third dimension that certainly is front and foremost in many is the fact that the use of data is going to have to be part of the conversation with society. We are now in acceptance that when we go online, we are tracked. I'm not sure that we are totally ready to be tracked when we are offline. And so those fundamental principle of a public good, and how do we put that data, that general data, to work? Who will we trust? Is the next topic of innovation and breakthroughs. And finally, and maybe making a very similar point, is that the real value of the built asset is intangible. It is not the concrete. It's not the per square foot. You don't buy a car per square foot. You buy a car through the experience that it delivers to you. And the third platform is a way to get to that intangible. And when that tangible and intangible converge through the convergence of platforms, you will have an opportunity to create value. And that's the topic that Angelo Cherubini is researching and trying to demonstrate from what's happening into educational contexts, but also into real estate context. So these are, a number of topics picked at random, because we are proposing an ecosystem. So that really concludes after 29 minutes, leaving only 1 minute to answer questions. What the third platform hypothesis speaks about.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan. We do have one question in the chat, so let's go ahead and take that one now. And then all other questions should please be directed to the Slack channel, where Alan can answer those, even later today or later this week. So we have one question here. Who will be the first movers towards the construction platform? Incumbent players don't want to change.
Yes, that's interesting. Incumbent and construction platform. I think there's more than one construction platform. Going back a few slides, there is the assembly, there is the material flow, there is the design upfront of construction, whether that's included in some parts. So we are seeing that actually that battle is developing quite strongly. So the vision, for example, of RIB that sold itself to Schneider for $1.4 billion a few weeks ago, months ago now, is to be that aggregative platform, because they aggregate what the assembler or the contractor prime needs to perform, and then can push that out. We've seen other platform, ESUB in California, coming with the same logic, but more of a transaction aggregation. We are seeing the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So the Autodesk strategy clearly is, since Andrew joined Autodesk, he was committed to make a big jump towards cloud and towards construction and orchestrating construction. So you have you have Autodesk there on top of Amazon, and then in front of that you have Digital Construction Works trying to set strategies. You've got Bentley iTwin sitting on top of Microsoft Azure. So you're seeing already some cloud vendor making some very strong move to say, let's make sure that if this happens, and when that happens, we are in the strongest possible position. And then that makes sense, in my eyes, to the acquisition by Oracle of Aconex, where you had a cloud platform that was connecting the actors in the construction field of play, and Oracle having the ERP and having the planning tools and having the unifying tools in the Primavera tech stack, and then not having the capillarity and access to the design information, the execution information, and the supply chain, and making that move to acquire that. So it's very much, to my mind, already happening with a very strong cloud backup.
Excellent. Again, Alan, thank you so much for coming today. This is a great talk. And I just want to remind everybody one more time, you can find Alan in the Slack channel with any additional questions you have. So thank you, Alan.
And bye from London.